We'll now talk of anarchy to YUNARCHY from 1947 to 2024, the troubled past of East Pakistan 1.5. You see this thumbnail? It's very dark, depressing. That's the state of Bangladesh. And that's the state of the people of Bangladesh. Let me explain. A nation is made of people. It's not made of anyone else. Whether Bangladesh is sunny or dark will be decided by the people. And the people today, not today, right from 1947, have had a dark past. People don't understand this. The past of Bangladesh is troubled. And that's what we're going to see today. And again, I'm going to stick to Bangladesh mainstream history. I'm not going to talk today about Bangladesh India relations, Bangladesh China relations, the rise of JEI. We'll talk of all that a little later, maybe the next episode. In fact, the next episode. But today, we'll talk of mainstream history of Bangladesh, stroke East Pakistan 1.5. Look, we're going to be a little deliberate and go about this, point by point. I'll start about the East Pakistan period, 1947 to 1971. East Pakistan developed frictions with West Pakistan almost immediately. Linguistic, cultural, ethnic. A feeling of being economically and politically exploited by West Pakistan created all the frictions. There was a language movement, and that's important. In 1948, Jinnah declared that Urdu should be the sole official language. Now, the Bengali-speaking majority, they were 56% of then Pakistan, United Pakistan. They didn't agree to this policy that Urdu is the national language of Pakistan. Remember, Pakistan has this great identity crisis. Urdu is not endemic to Pakistan. Pakistan has Pashto, Punjabi, Sindhi, Baluchi, Saraiki, and it had then also had Bengali, which was 56%. And that was the biggest percentage for a language. This was attempted to be replaced by Urdu, which is not a natural language. It was the language of the courts of the Mughals and the Muslim rulers of Delhi. That's all. It was not a common spoken language. So the language movement started in 1952. That is when the police fired on students in Dhaka. Bengali nationalism came up. It trumped religious identity. And then the political movement started. Around the time, 47 got independence, Awami League came in 1949, and it started promoting Bengali autonomy. Ziaur Rahman, he became the leader of this autonomous movement, or the autonomy movement. And he wanted a 6-point program for East Pakistan autonomy in 1966. Right? And just to give you a heads up, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman himself was some kind of an Islamist. If you see his past, the way the Awami League came up and the way he got hold of the Awami League and took the leadership of Awami League also indicates its own problems. What is the 6-point demand for autonomy? Very interesting to understand this. The 6-point demand for autonomy in Bangladesh was proposed in the Lahore Conference in 66 to end political and economic exploitation of East Pakistan. This was the cornerstone of the Bengali movement, the nationalist movement. and the basic catalyst for the independence of Bangladesh. So, what are these? He says East Pakistan should have a federal and parliamentary government based on direct elections. Second was limited central powers to control only defense and foreign affairs. They wanted separate currencies or financial safeguards, right? Either to direct convertible currencies or a single currency with constitutional measures to prevent capital flight. Why capital prevent capital flight? Even then, East Pakistan was felt that the West Pakistanis were sucking capital away from Bengal because Bengal was more industrialized than Pakistan. It had the jute industry, and Dhaka was the center. Incidentally, Dhaka was the bigger communication and business center and culture in United Bengal much before. It was much bigger than Calcutta. Calcutta came into prominence only after the Britishers came. Dhaka preceded that. And the Bengalis felt Dhaka was being exploited. They wanted provincial taxation power. And the revenue generated by taxation, only a share should go to Pakistan. They wanted separate foreign exchange accounts and trade. And they, very big. Actually, if you look at it, it was almost like secession. In fact, I wouldn't say secession, it was secession. Mujibur Rahman wanted a provincial militia, a own paramilitary force. The view in West Pakistan was this is a move towards secession. It's right. The 6-point demand for autonomy, which came up in 66, okay, in Lahore, it was put forth. Very clear. There were treason charges put against Sheikh Mujibur Rahman based on the Agartala conspiracy case. I'll not get into that. But it didn't stick. In this process, over a period of time, the movement became popular. And this was a precursor to Awami League's electoral victory in 1970 and the 1971 Liberation War or Bangladesh War. Understanding this is important. The political lead-up is important. Now the Liberation War started. There is a second part, the lead-up, then the Liberation War. The Liberation War or the Bangladesh War was based on the 1970 Cyclone Bola and the 1970 general election, which Awami League won hands down. It swept Bengal clean, 160 seats, which I showed you in the last one. But Yahya Khan and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto did not want to hand over power to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. But March 1971, Operation Searchlight and the crackdown and the genocide on Bangladesh started. 26th March 1971, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman declared independence. And we know later that year India intervened, all that. This is the period up to 1971. Now let's look at Bangladesh and its troubled history. Okay, now Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, for all his greatness, himself was a kind of a autocrat. In fact, in his early years, if you see, he was more of a Islamist himself. Okay, but the circumstances under which Bangladesh was born and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman came and way India reached out to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, saved his family, drove him to the fact that Bangladesh adopted a secular parliamentary constitution in 1972. Just few months after liberation, they adopted this. But he faced immense challenges. Economy was devastated. There was a famine, 74, and political unrest. Now, when he was faced with all this, because it was a troubled country, there were enough people in Bangladesh who didn't want to, who still wanted to be part of Pakistan. Now, Mujibur Rahman abolished the one-party system, and in fact, he abolished the multi-party system and instituted a one-party system. And he assumed the executive presidency with extraordinary powers, absolute authority, and he was assassinated. Now, this assassination was orchestrated by disgruntled army officers. The lead amongst them was Ziaur Rahman. Ziaur Rahman knew of this assassination. A man who was just a major in 72, or rather 71, became a major general by 75. He's got a past of his own. Okay. And why did this happen? Because of political instability and authoritarianism. One party rule called Baksal. Mujibur Rahman banned everyone and it slowly. Then there was economic mismanagement and famine. Huge. Okay. There was widespread corruption within Awami League. Awami League is not a saint. And a famine in 1974. The military had huge discontent. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman wanted a paramilitary force which was loyal to himself, called Jatiya Rakhi Bahini. Because the earlier Mukti Bahini was freedom struggle, freedom militia, that was disbanded. He wanted to put that as part of the Jatiya Rakhi Bahini, but also the Mukti Bahini had people who were against Mujib. And that was a period when there were internal conflicts and ideological differences within Pakistan army. Because there were a lot of people within Bangladesh who had pro-Pakistani leanings and anti-India feelings, and they were against Mujib. And Ziaur Rahman was one of them. Ziaur Rahman was one of them. There was ideological opposition to Mujib. And Mujib by then had realized that secularism is the only way forward. Plus, now US wanted to extract revenge. US ISI still had its tentacles in Bangladesh. China started playing up then itself. All three got together and destabilized Mujibur Rahman. And it ended up in his assassination by a group of officers, young junior officers, orchestrated by probably Ziaur Rahman. He knew about it and he kept quiet. But that assassination, did it lead to anything in Bangladesh? No. It culminated in Ziaur Rahman to become a president or take over, coup. It was a coup by him. Then he went on to found the Nationalist Party called the BNP. It enabled him to become a politician. He himself was assassinated in 1981. Okay, 4 years. Then later, 1982, HM Ershad takes over. He rules for 9 years and he goes to jail. But let's look at this. Interestingly, what happened in Bangladesh during Ziaur Rahman's rule is interesting. I was reading on the, on Ziaur Rahman. He was a major in 71. Okay. He got hold of a lot of people. He was against Pakistan, right? But he was not for India. He had his own thing. He was more political than anyone. He operated off Chittagong with an independent force. Chittagong Hill Tracts. And he was the one who gave a call for freedom without anyone's consultation. Politically, it was not acceptable. So then he started supporting Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He fell in line with Awami League and a lot of other nationalist forces and all that. And then much later, he endorsed whatever Sheikh Mujibur Rahman said during that rule. And then he killed him. And then ultimately, 4 years later, he was also killed. He was a controversial figure. But what did he do? The constitution of Bangladesh in 72 was secular. Now, Ziaur Rahman took over. He abolished the one-party rule first, got everyone in. He banned political and religious parties like GPay were brought back. Founded the BNP, made it a big party to contend with Awami League. In any case, after Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was killed, Awami League went through the same phase it is going today. It was marginalized. History repeats itself in Bangladesh, but Bangladesh doesn't look at its own history. That's the beauty. I said they disregard their history, hence they have no future. So, and then there was an ideological shift. What is that? He did constitutional amendment. Okay, what did it there? Absolute faith and trust in Almighty Allah came into the constitution. Secularism as a founding principle was taken out. Important. So you see Islamization in the constitution of Bangladesh, this time induced by Ziaur Rahman. It's not new. If you think what Sheikh Hasina has now tried, what is now happening by Yunus, what is happening by JEI, it's not new. It's always there. When you go back to Ziaur Rahman's time, Islamism, anti-Hinduism. Then another major shift. You see, the entire Bangladesh was based on Bengali nationalism. It was not based on, because the concept of Bangladesh was not there before 71. But by 77, Ziaur Rahman, when he took over, he promoted something called a territorial identity called Bangladeshi nationalism. And Bengali nationalism is linguistic and ethnic and identifies itself with Hindu Bengal. So that was taken out. Important. So two things he did. Then, of course, opposition was suppressed. Awami League was marginalized. BNP was brought up. In terms of foreign policy, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's time in Bangladesh was closer to India and Soviet Union because they are the ones who gave them independence, help. After all, India got a lot of help from Soviet Union at that time. Military help to fight with East Pakistan and ward off USA. To the extent when the 7th Fleet came, the Soviets started moving a fleet into Bay of Bengal. That is when the whole story stopped. People don't realize this. So he moved away from this and he started developing ties with US, Western Europe, China and Middle East. The ties with China began with Ziaur Rahman. It's not now, it's then. Why? He felt India was its enemy. If India is the only enemy with 4,000 kilometers border, where could he go? He could either go to Pakistan, which by then was in its own problem. Huge problem by 77. Hanging of Bhutto, all that was happening there. So he could go to the Middle East, export labor there. It was exporting labor using Bangladeshi people, allowing them to go to Middle East. He went to Middle East, went to them and said, take my labor and give me foreign exchange. Then through that came the Wahhabi influence into Bangladesh. Islamism rose. He went to China for security. USA by then had lost interest in Bangladesh because there were other problems. We're talking of the Carter era and all that, Carter Reagan era. So, but he moved away from India, right? And 77 to 81 was also a troubled period for India. Remember that. You had the Janta experiment. 77, the Janta party came and it fell, and another came, fell. VP Singh's government came, fell. All those problems were there. India itself was unstable politically by 77, coincidental with Ziaur Rahman's rule. So we didn't have a grip on Bangladesh. So many people think, oh, why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? Sorry, it couldn't have happened. Politically, we were not ourselves very clear what we wanted. 77, the summer of 77, I still remember listening to the results of Janta Party coming into power, Morarji Desai coming into power when I was traveling from Delhi to, Chennai in train. That's it. Hard facts. Then there was military discontent in that period. There was intra-army conflict. There are people who were executed. And some major or senior officers of Bangladesh were reshuffled. And they all got together and operated against Ziaur Rahman. Anti-India sentiment, this, that. So ultimately, Ziaur Rahman was assassinated in 81 by a group of army officers. So you'll see that the army has played a recurring role in Bangladeshi instability. Today, that army is sitting in barracks still and things pulling strings from behind. When will they come into the streets is something which we have to see as we go ahead. Will they come? Will Wakaruzaman come and tell Yunus everyone to pack off and will it go? The history suggests that. That's why I give it full support to the current army chief of Bangladesh, who is holding this country together. He's the only sensible guy I see in the horizon. Then comes Ershad's rule, 9 years, 82 to 90. It was also a military dictatorship. It later transformed into a civilian presidency. How did he come in? Abdul Sattar was the elected government immediately after Ziaur Rahman's death. He was thrown out. It was a bloodless coup. 24th March 1982. Right? The moment Ershad came, he imposed the martial law, suspended the constitution. Next year, he declared himself the president. Then he made controlled elections. He got people to, just like what's happened in Pakistan now. Pakistan was completely rigged elections. There he rigged the entire election process, ensured that people won. And he established his own party called the Jatiya Party. Today, there's no mention of Jatiya Party anywhere in any election. What were his key policies and initiatives? Islamization. So what Ziaur Rahman started, he continued. He threw away the original constitution of secularism and all that, finished. Then he made a constitutional amendment in 1988 and made Islam the state religion. So that this JEI and gang are happy about the whole affair. This happened. This is all facts. Of course, Ziaur Rahman and Ershad, they both military dictators, got in a lot of economic reforms, all that, liberalization policies, a lot of privatization and all that. But it didn't bear fruit because they didn't know what to do. You're looking at a time when this entire region was in trouble. The entire Indian subcontinent was in economic mess, too much of command economies. But even in Pakistan, Bhutto was a socialist or a communist by nature. He was no paragon of virtue. India also, Morarji Desai was also leftist socialist, part of the freedom movement. Later, he tried to become more pro USA and all that. Didn't succeed. We're talking about time. You're talking about era where you know a lot of widespread poverty, resources were less, and we're far better. Today's India is far different from that India. And then, of course, his foreign policy. Same. He continued with what Ziaur Rahman did. Okay. Where did he go wrong? Again, same story, authoritarianism and corruption. So, authoritarianism and corruption is a recurring story in Pakistan. In East Pakistan 1.5 or Bangladesh, as you call it. It happened with Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, it happened with Ziaur Rahman, it happened with Ershad. It happened with all the guys in between who came in for a few periods, Sattar, Sutar, all these fellows. Every day, governments were changing those days. I remember that. Rights have always been suppressed in Bangladesh. And he placed Khalida Zia and Sheikh Hasina because both of them, in Ershad's rule, one important thing is that Khalida Zia and Sheikh Hasina started coming up politically back. In Ziaur Rahman's time, these were too young. During Ziaur Rahman's time, Khalida Zia was his wife. She was in the top. Once he got assassinated, but then BNP took root and she was at the head. Sheikh Hasina also made a comeback. Awami League brought her back. And they started coming up during Ershad's rule. He used to keep throwing them into jail regularly. He destroyed democracy completely. Okay. Now, that was when, towards the second half of Ershad's rule, Khalida Zia and Sheikh Hasina got together. The two Begums of Bangladesh got together. And they forced Ershad to resign in 1990. He was forced to resign. The last 3 years of his rule was quite turbulent. He was not only forced to resign, he was thrown into jail and he died in jail. For some time, that Jatiya Party was there, but now I don't hear of it. I don't know how many of you know what this Jatiya Party of Ershad was. And Ershad died a broken man. If you see his memoirs, he died. Well, anyway, that was Ershad's rule. So, you see a third guy who came into power. Then, the Battle of Begum starts, 91 to 2009. 18 years of Battle of Begums. Khalida Zia, followed by Sheikh Hasina, Khalida Zia, then Sheikh Hasina. In this, both different ideologies, completely opposites, not political opposites, ideological opposites, where power was the only criterion in East Pakistan, 1.5. Rather, I'll say Bangladesh. At that point of time, we all felt that Bangladesh has to go through this tribulation. There was intense rivalry between Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia. The good part of this period, 91 till 2009, the Battle of Begums, is parliamentary democracy came back. By then the army started realizing that they don't have a role in Bangladesh. The Bengali Muslims of Bangladesh wouldn't allow the army to succeed. And the army knew that they can't succeed. So army chiefs after that said, look, we'll let democracy take root. Otherwise, we'll go nowhere. See, one of the things with Bangladesh is, one of the problems with Bangladesh, and this is something which we have to understand. Where does Bangladesh go? Pakistan, to theek hai, it will break up into Sindh and Punjab and Pashtunistan and Baluchistan and be okay. It will go into five pieces. Where does Bangladesh go? Bangladesh is a one-party system, one unit system. There's no breakup of Bangladesh which can happen. And this is something which we have to understand. When you deal with Pakistan, you can break up Pakistan. You can't break up Bangladesh. Thinking. You have to think politically about Bangladesh to understand where we are heading. Then, when this power transition took place with caretaker government, non-caretaker government, all that, but they struggled till 2009. Till 2009. And 2009, Sheikh Hasina wins elections and then holds on to power. And she throws Khalida Zia in jail. And we know when Sheikh Hasina came back in 2009, it was a landslide victory because by then Bangladesh was a basket case. No one wanted to touch it. Sheikh Hasina comes back. And interestingly, I wouldn't say interestingly, the first time Sheikh Hasina came, she was weak. Her government was weak. The BNP was still the dominant, and she didn't have a great majority. Right? And so BNP could trouble her. Khalida Zia followed her husband's footsteps. She was also anti-India. So during her period, the relationship with China became better, or rather stronger. She started, in some manner, getting back to Pakistan. This is a time when this Grameen Bank of Yunus all started. And Yunus had political ambitions through that also. And this is the time when Khalida Zia started speaking of Greater Bangladesh. It was Khalida Zia who started speaking of Greater Bangladesh. What is Greater Bangladesh? He says in Bangladesh and its people need space, Lebanon from. So we need space along the Brahmaputra. Whatever is there in Assam will be ours. It's a matter of time. Why? Please understand. Hailakandi and Karimganj along the Barak Valley are Muslim majority districts of Assam. What about Dhubri? What about Nagaon? Those are also the Muslim majorities of Assam. He says her plan was we'll first populate the Muslim majorities. Kokrajhar. See, Kokrajhar is funny. The top half is all Bodos. Bottom half is all Muslims. So, Kokrajhar will have always problems of this kind, and it's there. So, we will spread along the valleys of Barak and Brahmaputra and get space for Muslims. Actually, that is why they wanted Northeast, all that. The later thing is they come this side. They didn't have, for Bangladesh to spread into West Bengal and further into Jharkhand and Orissa and all that, as now Great Bengal, is not a natural phenomenon. The natural phenomenon is further east. I'll talk of this in the next podcast. I'll talk of the concept of Greater Bengal in the next podcast, because in the next podcast I'm going to come to the current situation of Greater Bengal, China, Bangladesh, China, India, those things. JEI. And then we'll see where it goes. But that will be a week down the line. So, Khalida Zia started propagating this. And she started giving shelter to Northeast militants, Ulfa, PLA, Manipur, Tripura, NLFT. Tripura was in flames, if you people don't know. And Tripura people could just walk into any part of Bangladesh, Sylhet region. That is eastern Bangladesh, northeastern Bangladesh. Natural. Agartala. Those of you who don't know Agartala, when you land into Agartala, you actually fly into Bangladesh and land into Agartala. Under the plane, you can see the border between India and Bangladesh. Even now. Look, I commanded my brigade there. I know it. Agartala was my headquarters. So you find that this thing was there at that time. When Sheikh Hasina came, she started improving relations with India and the world and started stabilizing Bangladesh. And a lot of good things came out. A lot of good things came out with Sheikh Hasina. And she remained in office till last year. We know that. 2009 to 24, 15 years. Lot of economic growth, everything. But accusations of authoritarianism. Now, authoritarianism never left Bangladesh, whether it was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman or Ziaur Rahman or Ershad or Khalida Zia or Sheikh Hasina. They were all authoritarians. Whenever they were in power, they killed the opposition. And now a new story started. We know this story. We have this YUNARCHY. ये लकड़ी पे काटी पे घोड़ा type. That's why thumbnail. So you see that this is a troubled nation. Has it, you know, got what it wanted ever? What did it want? I've never understood what Bangladesh wants. What does the average Bangladeshi man wants on ground? Does it peace? Peace with whom? Does it want economic progress? They want to overtake India. What do they want? They want to be anti-India. They want to be pro-China. They want to be Pakistan. I feel today they want to be East Pakistan 1.5. And I'll go back to what I said in the earlier thing on Bangladesh, the events leading to 71 war. Because that's important. Because this is what it is. Today they are carrying out a historical revisionism. They are re-evaluating the narrative of 1971 liberation war and the role of nations founder Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. They are actually saying Mujibur Rahman did not give them independence. It was Ziaur Rahman. Ziaur Rahman was sitting in Chittagong hill tracts. It was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, good, bad or ugly. He was the one who stood up, who went to Lahore for that Lahore declaration, sought the 6-point agenda, or which built the momentum for autonomy. From autonomy, people, he was the one who was put in jail for treason. He was tried. Then when he won the elections, he was put in jail again. When the entire Bangladesh war was happening, he was in jail in Lahore. For some time after Bangladesh lost the war, and not Pakistan lost the war, and Dhaka and Bangladesh was declared independent, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was in jail in Pakistan. From there, he went to London and then came here. People don't know that. There was a danger that he might be killed there only. This is also on the cards till Pakistan's tail was twisted and said, partner, to chhod do usko. Now, Bangladesh wants to throw such a man out, good, bad, or ugly. He came and what he did. And get Sheikh Ziaur Rahman, who did nothing. They want to declare him as the father of the nation. You might not like what Gandhiji did in India, but you don't kill him here. You don't finish him off. That's revisionism. Some revisionism will always happen in every country. Even in USA, it's happening. Even in China, it's happening. China they themselves revise their own histories. They keep revising it faster than we change diapers. Even in USA, it's happening. Every country revises its history. Because it suits political idea. But in Bangladesh, it happens like that. They are altering textbooks to say Ziaur Rahman was the liberator. They're sidelining India's contribution. Without India, Bangladesh wouldn't have been there. There's no way. Another 5 lakh people would have been killed and raped, and half of Bangladesh would be, or East Pakistan would be East Pakistan 1.5 truly, because that many more illegal children would have been born. I'm telling you, you see Raghurai's black and white pictures. They tell you the story. There's a there's a clip, I think, of UNICEF or WHO or UN or something like that. I don't remember. I've seen it. I've got it, but I don't want to put it because if I put it, YouTube will ban it. It talks of the number of people who are impregnated and through rape, and the spike in Bangladesh population in 1971. Okay, and now the guys who oppose their liberation, like JEA, are being brought back into the mainstream. They're going against their own history. Who this Al Badr and Razakars, you talk of all these, who are there? Basically JEA. They've lifted the ban on Jamaat Islam. Convicted militants have been released. People who are on death sentence have been released. Individuals with, affiliation to Hizbul Tahrir, which is again completely Islamist. They are in government positions. Communal violence. They have targeted all minorities, whether it's Buddhists, Hindus, or Christians, and they refuse to acknowledge it. And they say, no, it's not there. Just because these East Pakistanis think that they say it's not there, it doesn't run away. Ill-treating minorities, targeted killing of minorities doesn't run away. That is why I say it is East Pakistan 1.5. Their secular culture from 71 constitution to now has changed completely. There's no more a secular nation. They are East Pakistan 1.5. And there's an Islamist counter-revolution happening, which I spoke. Why? They want to now completely make it a Muslim country with no secular credentials. They want it to be theocratic. They want to be anti-India completely. Am I going to say that this is what it is and this is what we should do and all that? Sorry, we have to do what we have to do. No more Bangladeshi brothers. Please understand, if this is going to be East Pakistan 1.5, we have to deal with it differently. How we are going to deal with it differently, I'll get to it. After all, I have to give you the other shape of Bangladesh, the geopolitical aspects of Bangladesh, the economic aspects of Bangladesh, the rise of JEI in Bangladesh, China. I'll talk of it next week, and then we'll see how to handle Bangladesh. Right? So I think we'll leave this today. I do hope you have enjoyed both these. I'll split it and put it up so that you can see it individually. I'll do it by tomorrow. If you like this, press the like button, and I'll take on a few questions now. Right? And also join Gunner Shot as members. Subscribe to Gunner Shot, and press the bell icon. Yeah.